everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're really going to get into the psychology of money.
Ooh, yeah.
We've got excerpts from Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. Have you read this one?
I have. It's a good one.
It's packed with fascinating stories and insights. I was hooked from chapter 1, but hey, that's why we're here, right? To distill those golden nuggets of wisdom.
And there are some real gems in this book. What I find so refreshing is how Housel moves beyond just like the typical investment advice.
Right.
And focuses on the human side of financial decisions.
Exactly. He argues that being successful with money isn't just about being a financial whiz. It's about understanding the psychology, the emotions, those often irrational ways we think about money.
Yeah.
And to illustrate this point, Housel tells the story of Ronald Reed, a janitor who amassed an $8 million fortune.
Whoa, really? A janitor. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a compelling example of how financial success is often more about behavior than book smarts.
Totally.
And then on the flip side, you have someone like Richard Fuscone, a Harvard MBA who ended up bankrupt.
Wow.
So Housel uses these stories to highlight what he calls the soft skills of money management. Those often overlooked factors that can really make or break your financial success.
Which leads us to our first big takeaway. It's not crazy, it's personal. Think about it. Have you ever looked at someone else's financial decisions and thought, what were they thinking? Like, it seemed totally irrational.
Like, all the time. And I'm sure people have looked at some of my decisions that way too.
Right. But Housel's point is that those decisions probably made perfect sense to that person at the time.
Yeah.
Because we all view money through the lens of our own experiences, our upbringing, our cultural background. It's like we each have our own internal money stories.
Exactly. We're all just a bunch of stories walking around, right?
And those stories, even if they represent like a tiny fraction of what's actually happened in the world, hold immense power over our financial decisions.
Well, absolutely.
Take the lottery ticket paradox, for example.
Okay.
Why do you think someone who is struggling to make ends meet would spend a significant portion of their income on lottery tickets?
Yeah, it's statistically like a terrible financial decision.
Right. It seems completely irrational.
Right.
But Housel challenges us to look deeper.
Okay, I like that.
It's about understanding that for some people, that tiny chance of winning represents a tangible dream.
Wow.
A potential escape from their current circumstances. It's not necessarily about the odds of winning. It's about the feeling, the hope it provides.
It's about what that money represents for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So it's a good reminder that behind every financial decision, there's a story, a context we may not fully grasp.
That's a really good point.
And recognizing that can help us approach financial decisions, both our own and those of others, with more empathy and understanding.
Absolutely. And, you can even think about it with something like, imagine two people, right, making investment decisions.
Okay.
One grew up with parents who, went through periods of hyperinflation. The other, has only ever known relative price stability. These two people are going to have radically different views on inflation, risk, even just saving.
Because their money stories are completely different.
Exactly.
Their decisions will stem from those deeply ingrained beliefs and experiences.
Totally.
Okay, now let's talk about Bill Gates.
Ooh, Bill Gates. All right, let's do it.
Specifically, the role of luck and risk in financial success.
Okay.
Housel uses this really interesting anecdote about Bill Gates having access to a computer back in 1968.
Back in 1968.
Okay, because of a generous donation to his school.
Wow.
And Housel refers to this as expanding your luck surface area. Gates was in the right place at the right time, and it had a monumental impact on his trajectory. It allowed him to dive deep into the world of computers, a world that was practically inaccessible to most people back then.
Yeah, that's true. Computers were very rare back then.
And it really makes you wonder, how things might have turned out if that donation hadn't come through, right?
Totally different world, probably.
And to highlight the role of risk, the flip side of luck,
right.
Housel contrasts Gates' story with that of his equally brilliant friend, Kent Evans.
Okay.
Tragically, Evans died in a mountain climbing accident when they were still young.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's this sobering reminder that as much as we like to believe we're in control, luck and risk play a significant role in all our lives, shaping outcomes in ways we often fail to appreciate.
Yeah, it's like that saying, we make plans and God laughs.
And it's so easy to fall into the trap of attributing success solely to skill and hard work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially when we see someone like Bill Gates.
Of course, he's like the ultimate example of success.
Right. But as Housel points out, luck, often plays a bigger role than we realize.
Which is hard to hear sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's true.
And on the flip side, we often judge failures too harshly
Oh, for sure.
without considering the influence of external factors, the bad breaks, the unforeseen circumstances.
Right, because we're all just playing the game with a different set of cards.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So how can we apply this luck surface area concept to our own lives? It's not about just waiting for a lucky break or becoming reckless risk takers.
Oh, definitely not.
It's about recognizing that luck exists, for better or for worse.
Right, and that it plays a role. And it's about actively creating opportunities for ourselves.
Yes.
Maybe it's attending that industry conference, reaching out to that potential mentor, or simply saying yes to experiences outside our comfort zones.
Putting yourself out there.
It's about putting ourselves out there, increasing our chances of stumbling upon those lucky breaks.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So, while we can't control every outcome, we can control how we play the game.
Yes, we can.
We can control how we prepare ourselves, how we show up, and how we react to whatever life throws our way.
And sometimes that's all you can do. Right?
Yeah.
Just control what you can control.
And perhaps that's the real key to success.
Okay, I like it.
Maximizing our luck surface area while simultaneously acknowledging the role of chance and making peace with the fact that some things are simply beyond our control.
It's a delicate balance, for sure.
It is.
But one that can lead to a more fulfilling and successful life, financially and otherwise. It's a tough one.
Now let's switch gears for a moment and talk about this never-ending game of enough.
Okay.
Have you ever felt like, no matter how much you achieve, how much you acquire, it's never quite enough?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
It's almost like we're on this treadmill,
Yes.
constantly chasing after the next milestone, the next possession, the next zero in our bank account.
It's like that hedonic treadmill, right?
Exactly.
You work hard, you achieve your goals, you get that temporary boost of happiness, but then
it fades.
It fades and you're right back where you started, craving more.
And it's not just about material possessions either, right? It could be status, recognition, even experiences. We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us we need more to be happy.
Oh, totally. It's everywhere you look, right? Like you're not enough unless you have this, that, or the other thing. But anyway, I think Housel brings up a really good anecdote about this. It's about John Bogle.
Okay.
The founder of Vanguard.
Okay, yeah.
He talked about being at this party, right? Hosted by a billionaire.
Okay.
And he was saying how even with all that wealth, this guy still seemed preoccupied with acquiring more, like it was the key to unlocking some higher level of contentment.
It's such a good point because you think someone at that level would have figured it out right.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But it's it's never enough.
It really puts things into perspective.
It does.
So how do we break free? How do we define enough for ourselves in a way that actually brings lasting fulfillment?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. It is.
And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think a good starting point is to shift our focus from external validation to internal satisfaction.
What do you mean by that?
So instead of chasing after what we think we should want, what society tells us will make us happy, we need to get clear on our own values, our own priorities, what truly matters to us, what brings us joy, purpose, a sense of fulfillment.
Because maybe enough looks different for everyone.
Exactly.
For some, it might be about financial security, knowing they have enough to cover their basic needs and a little extra for the things they enjoy. For others, it might be about having the freedom to pursue their passions, whether it's traveling the world or starting a business or spending more time with loved ones.
Right. And I think this is where a lot of traditional financial advice kind of misses the mark.
Yeah.
Because it's so focused on, maximizing returns, accumulating wealth.
Right. The numbers.
Yeah, but it neglects the emotional and psychological aspects of money.
Yeah. It's like Housel says, the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving.
Ooh, I like that one.
And that requires a certain level of self-awareness, introspection,
Totally.
and the willingness to challenge our own assumptions about what will truly make us happy.
Because we think we know right.
We do.
But we need to really examine that.
And I think that's a journey we all have to take for ourselves.
We do.
There's no magic formula.
Nope.
But by becoming more mindful of our relationship with money, examining our own money scripts,
Yes.
we can start to make more intentional choices, choices that align with our values and bring us closer to that sense of enough.
Okay. That was deep. So are we ready to move on to something a little bit lighter?
Let's do it. And speaking of powerful forces, let's talk about compounding.
Okay.
Housel calls it the eighth wonder of the world.
As he should, because it's incredible.
It is.
Compounding is this like incredible force
Yeah.
that can turn small, consistent actions into really significant results over time.
It's like that snowball effect, right?
Exactly. And Housel uses this great analogy to explain it. He compares it to a glacier.
Okay.
So you see like a little bit of snow each winter and it doesn't seem like much, right?
Right.
But over time, as that snow accumulates and compresses, it can create these massive, awe-inspiring glaciers.
Yeah, it's a great visual.
It is. Because just like with glaciers, the real magic of compounding lies in time and consistency.
So even small contributions to like your investments made consistently over time can grow exponentially thanks to the power of compounding.
Exactly. It's like building a snowman. You start with a small snowball, and as you roll it around in the snow, it picks up more and more snow, growing larger and larger.
I love that analogy.
It's very visual, right?
It is.
And compounding is kind of like that. But instead of snow, it's your money growing on top of itself.
And the earlier you start, the more time you have for that money snowball to grow.
So true. That's why it's so important to start investing early on, even if you can only invest a small amount at first.
Because it's all about like playing the long game with compounding.
Exactly. Slow and steady wins the race.
Speaking of playing the long game, we should probably talk about the importance of avoiding financial ruin.
Oh, that's a good point, because that can really derail even the best laid plans.
Right, because even if you're like a master at compounding,
Right.
one major financial setback can wipe out like years of gains.
Totally. Housel uses this analogy of a pilot
Okay.
who makes 1,000 successful landings,
Ah.
but then has one fatal crash.
Oh, wow.
And it's like that one crash overshadows all the previous successes.
It's a good point, though.
Yeah, it's sobering, right?
It is.
And it highlights how we often focus so much on maximizing returns
Right.
that we kind of forget about the importance of protecting what we've worked so hard to build.
It's true.
So how do we avoid becoming that pilot? How do we make sure we're not taking on more risk than we can handle? Well, it starts with understanding that risk is a part of like any investment, right?
Right.
There are no guarantees.
And so how do we mitigate that risk? Like, what practical steps can we take?
Well, Housel talks about the importance of building room for error into our financial plans.
Okay.
It's about expecting the unexpected, right? Acknowledging that life rarely goes according to plan.
So it's about having that buffer, a margin of safety.
Exactly.
So that when those inevitable bumps in the road appear, we're able to, like, navigate them without derailing our entire financial plan. It's like wearing a helmet when you're riding a bike. You might not plan to fall, but it's always better to be prepared.
Yes, 1,000%. And that might mean having a larger emergency fund than you think you need,
Okay.
or diversifying your investments, or simply being more conservative with your spending habits.
Yeah.
You know, it's about making choices that give you more flexibility and resilience in the face of uncertainty.
Which makes a lot of sense when you think about, how often our lives change in ways we never could have predicted.
Oh, absolutely.
Housel uses this example of a friend who, like, started out wanting to be a high-powered lawyer,
Okay.
then pivoted to a more family-friendly career, and ultimately ended up as a stay-at-home parent.
Wow. Okay.
And each of those decisions came with, like, significant financial implications, requiring flexibility and adaptation.
Yeah, and it's a great example of how our financial plans really need to be able to evolve alongside our lives.
Right.
And that's something we often overlook.
We do, yeah.
Like we create these elaborate financial plans based on all these assumptions about the future. But the reality is we don't know what tomorrow holds.
It's like that quote, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yes, exactly. So how do we create financial plans that can really withstand the test of time? That can adapt to those inevitable twists and turns? Housel suggests, like, avoiding extremes.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, if you plan your financial life, assuming you'll always be content with a very low income,
Okay.
you might find yourself filled with regret if your aspirations change down the line,
Right.
But on the other hand, dedicating yourself to, like, a super high-paying but demanding career path might lead to burnout.
Right, or you have to sacrifice other things that you value.
Exactly. So it's about striking a balance.
That sweet spot.
Finding that sweet spot where you have enough financial security to live comfortably while also having the freedom and flexibility to pursue the things that bring you joy and fulfillment,
Because ultimately, financial success isn't just about the numbers in your bank account, right?
No, not at all.
It's about aligning your financial decisions with your values, your goals, your vision for the life you want to live.
It's about the big picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, love that.
And that requires being honest with ourselves about what truly matters to us, what brings us happiness, and what we're willing to sacrifice to achieve those things.
100%. Because every financial decision, it comes with a trade-off.
Right.
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
And that leads us to one of Housel's final points. Nothing's free.
Right.
He uses the example of volatility in the stock market.
Okay.
We often get so caught up in the excitement of potential gains that we kind of forget about the inherent risk involved.
Right. Everybody wants to get rich quick.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But they don't think about what might happen if things go south.
And those potential rewards, they come at a cost, the cost of uncertainty, that emotional roller coaster of market fluctuations, the possibility of losing money.
Totally. And you have to be prepared for that.
It's like he says, market returns are never free and never will be. They demand that you pay a price just like any other product.
And viewing that price as a fee, not a fine, can make a world of difference.
So instead of dreading market volatility, we should accept it as part of the game.
Yeah.
The price of admission to a potentially rewarding long-term investment strategy. It's like paying a cover charge to get into a great concert.
Ooh, I like that analogy. And just like with the concert, if the price of admission is too high for you,
yeah,
you can always choose to sit this one out, right? There are plenty of other investment options available.
Exactly. There's something for everyone.
The key is to just find what works best for you, your risk tolerance, your financial goals.
So there you have it, folks.
That's a wrap.
Hopefully this deep dive into the psychology of money has given you a fresh perspective on personal finance.
I know it has for me.
It's not just about the numbers and spreadsheets. It's about understanding the human element, our behaviors, our biases, and the stories we tell ourselves about money.
Because those stories have power.
They do.
They really do.
And financial success is a journey, not a destination, and it looks different for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
See you next time.
If you want to explore these ideas further, I highly recommend checking out Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. It's a thought-provoking read that will challenge your assumptions and give you a new framework for making sound financial decisions. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep exploring.